Welcome to the Prime Health Podcast with your host, Dr. Derek Barron. Dr. Barron interviews doctors, wellness experts, and healthcare leaders who are revolutionizing how we approach health and longevity. The Prime Health Podcast explores breakthrough science, personal and patient stories, and practical insights that are shaping the future of health and wellness. So sit back, listen in, and prepare to transform how you think about your path towards Prime Health with Dr. Barron and his special guest.
Welcome to the Prime Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Derek Barron, and I'm here to bring you cutting-edge insights and practical strategies for your journey to optimal health and life and your business. Today's episode is particularly exciting because we have Erik Nelson with us from Human Sync, and you're not going to want to miss how he discusses their longevity operating system. I even want to learn more about it myself. But before we dive in, a message from our sponsor, Growth Solutions. We're your growth partner that turns healthcare experts into market leadership, one strategic move at a time. So we help people, whether it's with new patient or new client lead generation, kind of eliminating those headaches, communication breakdowns between clients or patients or even staff, operational chaos by using proven systems and frameworks. And yes, we implement AI into systems of agents to deal with customer service and situations like that. So we're not an agency or vendor, we're your growth partner. So if you've ever said this to yourself, I'm too busy to grow, too slow to scale, or too overwhelmed to fix it, we can help you with that. Drop the word grow below or feel free to reach out to me in any social platform you'd like. But I know you're here for our guest today, and I'm excited to introduce you to Erik Nelson, the founder and medical director of Human Sync, a leading longevity medicine company focused on personalized health optimization and outcomes-driven care. Erik specializes in integrating advanced diagnostics, genomics, and performance science to create highly individualized health strategies. At Human Sync, he has built a reputation for delivering personalized, cutting-edge, and clinically rigorous programs that help extend not just their lifespan, but their peak health span as well. Now, with over a decade of experience in medicine and wellness, Erik has guided more than 1,500 clients, and I'm sure it'll get over 15,000 in the very near future, in transferring their health, performance, and long-term vitality. Now, beyond Human Sync, Erik has been part of 3 longevity clinics. He's helped build successful telemedicine and personalized genomic medicine business, and serves as an advisor to Good Home, an environmental health company. Early in his career, he worked as a neuro ICU nurse at Mayo Clinic, and as a personal trainer, experiences that both shaped his unique systems-based approach to preventative performance medicine. Erik, welcome to the Prime Health Podcast.
Thank you. Nice to be here. That was a very good intro. I didn't realize all that happened in the last 7 years, but it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. That's what our parents told us,
yes.
Supposedly.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Tell that to our kids
definitely having fun, so that's good.
Yeah. So Erik, I always like to ask this as an opening question. Was there something in your life that pointed you in the direction to heading into medicine?
I grew up in Rochester, Minnesota, so my whole family had worked at Mayo Clinic at the time. I never once thought about becoming a doctor or nurse until I was 23. So I think it was lifestyle. I mean, I was interested in health in high school, did a lot of weightlifting, and drove to Sam's Club on the weekend to get chicken breasts with my buddies. And we just ate a bunch of protein and lifted weights, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. After high school, I tried personal training, which I loved that. Thought about running a club. General manager at Lifetime Fitness was one of my goals. And then I got into social work and worked with kids. Loved that. What I like to do is just kind of help people in some sort of manner, whatever it is, and I personally have been through personal struggles too. And I received help from people, and I feel just a natural inclination or interest in helping people. So applying that to health now is the biggest focus. After nursing, I realized I was in a system that was not prevention focused. So now I'm doing that. So the path was actually not normal. I think personal training, serving tables at restaurants, social work. And then somebody said, hey, you'd be a good nurse. You should think about nursing school. And I really liked this person. It was a friend of mine at a church. And it's like, all right, let's try it. And then I got my nursing degree, and now here we are. So.
And you first went into neuro ICU. Tell us a little bit about what that consists of as a job.
Neuro ICU, yeah. So that's an intensive care unit in the neurological department. most major hospitals have some have different levels of critical care. So people that are in urgent situations like the one we're talking about right now, right before this podcast, something happened in our country. So people, whether it's a brain tumor that gets removed, suicide attempt, accidental accidents, major trauma, specifically affecting the brain, would get brought to the floor, and there'd be surgery typically in most situations, and then be brought to the room. And I was the nurse that would take care of the person immediately after surgery. So in nursing school, I got exposed to family nursing, all sorts of different types of nursing. There was a preceptorship that opened up in Duluth, Minnesota, in the ICU. And at the time, I was reading a book called The End of Alzheimer's by Dale Bredesen to help learn about the brain. And then I was getting my medical training in nursing school, still in a very education. I mean, I love learning. It's just, if I find something that's fascinating, I'll go crazy on it for a while. And I was thankfully, nursing school prompted that learning. Then the ICU preceptorship, I just figured it would lead to good things. So I did it. And then after nursing school, trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Mayo Clinic's neuro ICU department is very specialized because it's Mayo Clinic and people fly from all over the world because of complex cases. And I saw that as a challenge. And they hired me out of nursing school. They normally don't hire new nurses out of nursing school just because it's a complex floor, but I had experience with social work and kind of more life experience than the average grad coming out of school. So they rolled the dice by hiring me, and it was awesome. That was my first medical experience.
Yeah. Well, the truth is, not quite that you were building the bedside manner, but the ability to have a conversation and more so listen to someone to help them is such an advantage when it comes into healthcare, which not only are nurses excelling at that, but again, you had something a little bit more special from your previous, stint of working with, individuals. So I think that that's a great start into it. So I want to kind of hit on, Human Sync, your new company. Was there a problem in healthcare that you felt that you needed to solve? And is that why you're starting Human Sync?
Yeah, I think there's a pretty big problem with healthcare. It's amazing the acute care. So if you got a broken elbow, there's an accident like the one we're just talking about. There's amazing care in the United States for reactive care, trauma, major emergencies, incredible. But we have some of the worst health outcomes in the world, in the most developed country in the world, and so that's a problem. A lot of physicians get into medicine, and a lot of people get into medicine to help. So it's not so much the individual, it's more the system that we're all in. And we could go into why the system is the way it is. I think we all know it's reaction based. It's not prevention focused. And I see, going back to caring about the person as a nurse, I saw so many people work so hard and then they would get admitted to the hospital for something. And then their health has just deteriorated so much that they're not able to enjoy the last 20, 30, 40 years of their life. And part of me says, what's the point if we're not going to be able to enjoy our life? Then see if we can do something about that. So, so I think helping people, my wife's father has a lot of medications that he's on. And I remember in nursing school seeing a little pill box, and a lot of people are going through this. And I would say, hey, do you know what you're taking? And not really, I'm taking it because I'm told to. And I just always had a problem with that. I'm like, we got to be doing a little bit more to help these people. 330 million people in our country. It's a big task, but it's got to start at the grassroots level. And thankfully this movement in medicine, my first company after Mayo Clinic, I can talk about that if you want, but there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that are really good. And if we can help people learn and educate people on how to, it's not us saying you have to do this and we're the all-knowing doctor by any means. It's let's use the education and the knowledge that's out there to help people live better now and prevent disease later. This is the main focus.
But don't you think, let's go back 10 years, regardless of the time that, where you were at that point in time, but people in general were just following orders. Nowadays, people are looking for answers. They may be given an order to follow, but now they're questioning whether it's Dr. Google that they look at, or they're starting to do some AI research, or they're asking a friend. They want they want what's best for them, and they'll kind of question their provider. And I think that's a big change lately, especially where with kind of the evolution of, people looking for peak performance in themselves.
Yeah, people are questioning. That's good. That has to happen.
Yeah.
And I welcome that all day long. And let's work together with our patients. So that's exactly what we do, is we work together with the patient to educate, let them know that cholesterol is not the main driver of heart disease. It could be a contributor for some people. There's a big brain health initiative we're working on right now that educate people on there are things we can do to prevent dementia or slow down the risk or reduce the risk. There's a lot of things we can do. And we're just very grateful to be able to help people do that.
Yeah. From your company, Human Sync, can you give us maybe your take on lifespan versus health span?
Yeah, I think we're taught, birthday candles on a cake and numbers. How long do we live? Traditionally, I think a lot of people think, well, as soon as I'm 80, 90, maybe even 70, that things just go downhill. And that's just how it is, because, I live in the Midwest, and farmers actually lived a little healthier, I think, back 30 years ago than 60-year-olds that are around today. But if mom or dad had heart disease, then that's probably what I'm going to get. A lot of it is lifestyle and the way the person's living, not so much genetics. Genetics play a factor, and I don't know the exact percentage. Some people say 7% or 5% or 10%, but majority of the factors that lead to disease are in our control. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of it. So lifespan is kind of how long do you live, and health span is how healthy are you for how long. And that's our goal at Human Sync. There's a spectrum. Have you ever heard of vitalists?
Yeah.
So there's a spectrum. Some people get very angry with aging, and they say we are going to end aging and we are going to live forever. And I think that's great. I mean, I'm all about it. Like, that's great. I like to use, and we're kind of more realistic with the tools we have right now with our patients. We feel there's a lot of things we can do to prevent the diseases that are occurring later in life or even midlife. We can do a lot more. So that's our focus, is saying, what can we do to prevent heart disease? What can we do to prevent neurological disease? What can we do to prevent immune dysfunction, cancer, metabolic dysfunction, and physical health, keep the body strong? So if we can attack those 6 systems, if you think about it, most problems later on in life come from one or multiple of those systems: heart disease and weak bones and not enough muscle mass. So the heart just tuckers out, and there's problems with the blood vessels in the cardiovascular system. Maybe the lungs aren't able to bring in as much oxygen, and then you've got a weak frame. So the body can't, carry things around, or there's a fall, and the stats after age 85 after a fall are pretty dire. 6 months, I think on average, the person lives after a fall after age 85. So if we can keep the body strong, keep these systems in check, I think we can live very long. My goal, I don't even have a goal. I don't say you should live to 105. I just say, let's do everything in our power to not get these diseases, and then just see what we can do.
When you go to an airport, when you go to a grocery store, you can see the difference in health span versus lifespan. And the sad part, and we can't see the internal systems a lot, but I think of my grandmother who had Alzheimer's. Physically, she could have climbed a mountain. Mentally, just, having the same conversation. It's sad when that health span is breaking down so hard amongst us. It's very difficult to see that, So what do you think most people get wrong when they look at longevity medicine for, whether they're 30, 40, or 50? What are they getting wrong about their approach?
You're talking about like the average individual that's interested in improving their health? Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah, it's a great point. So somebody, I'm in my mid 50s, you look a lot younger than that, which is great.
39, 39. I'm almost 40.
All right. Well, wherever we're at, and it's probably different for a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, 50-year-old, a 60-year-old, but, what is it most people on average are getting wrong about how they're approaching?
I would say, and it's not sexy, we live in a culture that is very busy, and we live in a culture that it's very focused on around work and productivity and go, 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 go. So what we're noticing behind the scenes in almost everybody is nervous system exhaustion.
Okay.
So I think coming to grips with the fact that our bodies are not meant for constant stress is probably the biggest opportunity for most people. Is that kind of in line with what you're asking as far as like an area?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. Most people just continue to live in not getting enough sleep, and work is stressful and life is stressful with the kids or job and getting there back and forth in the commute, but they may be approaching I would assume what you're working on is finding better ways for them to learn about that, realize it, and how they can, make changes in their life moving forward.
Yeah. I guess what I should have included on that was, it's a two parts or two sides to the coin. The first side of the coin was a lot of people, our patients are depleted and exhausted and tired, but also performing very well in certain areas. So maybe the business is running really well. We've got one guy that runs a very, very large company. So there's a lot of, I think our body is also really good at adapting to stress. So we've got adrenaline and we've got neurotransmitters and we've got things that can overtake, and cortisol, you wake up and you're ready to roll. But the body is not made for that all the time. We're made for periods of stress and then recovery and then more stress and then recovery, but not just stress with very little recovery. So a lot of the individuals we've seen, and I see this on, LinkedIn podcasts or LinkedIn comments and podcasts, is there's a lot of talk in the space right now about peptides, stem cells, therapeutic plasma exchange, gene therapies, very interesting things. And then the right situation, the game changers for some people. But I'm seeing a lot of interest in, okay, can I take this peptide and can I do this? And I've worked with companies that sell peptides and therapies all day long with little discussion about, are we actually improving health, or somebody's on 15 peptides and they have no idea that their patient has high blood pressure. So it's some of the basic parts of our physiology that are being overlooked. I'm talking more in the market right now within businesses. It's, these peptides are hot. Should we start a company that prescribes hormones and peptides, lab reviews once per quarter, and the doctor meets with the patient for a total of 15 minutes in the year? I see that as recreating the Western medicine system we currently live in. So there's a lot of interest, and this is not all bad, but there's areas to learn. And it's, there's shiny new pennies over here and shiny new things. I want this peptide and stem cell. But then you look and the cortisol is extremely elevated, and DHEA, the master hormone that's released from the adrenal gland, completely shot in a lot of people. So that leads to adrenal fatigue. And that's a sign that we can check in the blood work that somebody's stressed out. We also do wearables, and we check HRV and heart rate, and we check blood pressure. We can check a neurotransmitter called glutamate. We can check these stress markers, and a lot of people, these are depleted, or they're on their, you can just tell that the battery is not recharged in these individuals. And then they're looking for peptides at the same time. So it's a lot of education, and I love the idea of using peptides in the right situation. And we sent somebody for stem cells for regenerative medicine, back surgery, somewhere in the US recently. So we believe in these tools in the right situation. I've had patients get therapeutic plasma exchange because they had high levels of mold. Or there's a condition called Guillain-Barré, which is a debilitating neurological condition that almost all symptoms were erased after 2 rounds of therapeutic plasma exchange.
Wow.
So it's almost a stepwise approach to helping people. Got to get the foundations right. And we have to understand what's going on with the foundations. And then I straight up tell people, or educate, it's not extremely sexy in the beginning, but we have to get the foundation set, and then we can build and optimize and do a bunch of fun stuff.
Yeah. So you bring up a great point about the foundation right there. So I'm 55. I come in to see you because they say, hey, you know what? I don't get the same benefit in the gym, or I feel burned out, or I've got a friend of mine that's 55. He's coming in to see you and he's just like, I'm bloated. I've got gut problems. From a foundational standpoint, I'm sure you're going to look at both of us in a sense the same way to start with, but then the plan of care is different.
Yeah. So for two 55-year-olds, one with gut pain, the other one is maybe not seeing much change in the gyms. The foundations, I'll just tell you that we have a phase called the foundations of health, setting the foundations. So we run through a pretty intensive, it's a 60-minute conversation. And then we have a form that's filled out as well. And then if needed, another conversation to double click on certain areas. But going through the current lifestyle habits of the individual would be for both of them. So this would be the same for both, would be, okay, Derek and Joe Schmo, whoever the second person is, what's your medical history, and going pretty deep on that, not just heart disease, boom, boom, boom. It's dive deep on the medical history, dive deep on family history. Although I care to a point, and our medical team cares if we're working with a patient and that person, mom had heart disease or Alzheimer's disease, we do care about that, but we don't say, this person's probably going to get heart disease because their mom did, because that's just not reality. The lifestyle and what that person's actually doing is the most important thing. But we note it when we say, okay, medical history check, health goals. So what is that 55-year-old's goal? The one that has gut health problems. What is their goal now? What's their goal? What do their goals look like in 10 years? And what do their goals look like for the last 15, 20 years of their life, 10 years of their life? We dive deep into goals, and all of this is being stored and, kind of file away. And then we get into daily routine, and we go through, it's my favorite, probably one of my favorite pieces is talking to people about what they're doing from the moment they wake up, with an alarm, without an alarm. How do you feel? What does the first hour look like? What does the second hour look like? What does breakfast look like? Lunch, dinner? And then there's a bunch of questions intertwined in there.
Okay.
And then we get details on diet, exercise, sleep, stress, environmental health. Do you live in a home that's 60 years old? Are you on well water? Are you in an area that gets the smoke from Canada or Western United States, that the air quality? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of particulates in the air that people breathe in. There's home filters we can get in the AC filter and room filters. So we'll go pretty deep into everything about this person. And I feel we have to, in order to put together a plan that works for the person. There's some companies, I've even been a part of a couple groups that will look at that phase and say, it's a lot of work. We could do a questionnaire. Let's send out a questionnaire. And then what I've seen, and I'll just say it, doctors don't have time to look over these questionnaires all the time. So they won't even look over the questionnaire that's filled. And then the questions that were answered on the questionnaires are usually like 75% to the full ability of that patient, because they just want to finish the questionnaire. So the conversation pulls out information. Meanwhile, we had already collected wearable data, baseline vital signs, so blood pressure, heart rate, body composition, body fat, genetic analysis, blood work. For the person that's got gut health problems, we would pull in the gut health analysis, and we'd go deep on the gut and analyzing what their lifestyle looks like, pull some testing in. For the person in the gym that's not having gains, we would change that a little bit into probably a more full hormonal profile, and maybe a nutrients test, a metabolomics. There's a test called metabolomics from Genova that's really good, that looks at like nutrient levels inside the cell. So it's a little more accurate than like a blood test, and it looks at all sorts of different nutrients. So we would pull, we call those focus plans. So everybody kind of follows through a similar format in the beginning, but a 55-year-old that just went through menopause is different from a 55-year-old male who's having troubles with gains in the gym. So we 100% customize based on the person.
Okay. So with Human Sync, the longevity industry is really booming. What gets you excited about how you can, and I don't mean take advantage of it from a financial standpoint, which that happens, that's capitalism, that's okay. But what gets you excited as a business owner on how you can help patients more than the average business that's out there?
We live in a very exciting time. I think the public is curious about this new movement. You've got a lot of baby boomers and investors that are curious about this movement. You've got physicians and doctors that are curious about this movement. So it's positioned nicely, because every conversation I have, I mean, today I can't even tell you how many awesome things happened today, just because it's just exciting.
Sure.
So to be able to, and I work at home. I wish, and at times it'd be awesome to be in a clinic with a group of people because I love being around people.
Yeah.
But to be able to do this in the virtual world, my kids are at home. I'm speaking personally with homeschool with my wife. I get to see my kids and my wife all the time and build this awesome stuff, meet cool people. But most importantly, I think I'm most excited about what we can do for neurological care and brain health and dementia and Alzheimer's. So we're working on a very exciting project with a leading researcher named Matt Caberline. And we're going to launch in the next 6 to 8 weeks, if not sooner, a very high level brain health initiative geared at halting the progression of dementia into Alzheimer's disease. So the early symptoms, subjective cognitive impairment, mild cognitive impairment, people that have signs that something is happening, but full symptoms aren't there yet. We're creating a program to see if what our protocol can halt the progression of that. We think we're onto something. I just think,
I don't mean to,
yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off on that, Eric, but by thinking of a brain health program, it doesn't, or please correct me, it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that was a football player that's had concussions. It could be anybody walking the street that's questioning, I don't remember as well as I used to, or I forgot about that. And like, how is it that people fit into the need for looking into your company, Human Sync, for your brain health program?
I think it's high, it's the umbrella for the brain health. So I also want to differentiate too. So Human Sync is what we've been talking about this whole time.
Okay.
One of our advisors is Matt Caberline. He's a scientific researcher, longevity researcher. He's been looking at rapamycin, and he's an incredible individual and human as far as his precision to science. And so when he came on, we just got to talking about things we could do. So we're going to start a brain health initiative together. It's a separate project, still connected to Human Sync. For that, we are targeting primarily those that do have like a family history of it, or are showing signs of it, or a former athlete of any sort that had head trauma that is at risk for problems later. But then the fourth bullet is those are the highly motivated, that if somebody's highly motivated and they really want to do this, that we will bring them in. We only have 100, it's 100 total spots between, that we can go into the details of it, but we have 100 total patients in this first phase that we can bring in. And we just need the individual to be committed, which most people are. That's it. For Human Sync, we will work with, we don't have that strict of a criteria. Come on, join Human Sync, and we can bring in flavors. If not most of the stuff from the brain program, we do a lot of that at Human Sync, but we just double, triple click a little bit more on the brain initiative. Okay. Hopefully that was clear.
Yeah, no, it helps. I mean, I appreciate it. I know we had spoken about that prior to this, so it's just interesting. It's part of it, but it's also something that you're, working on to do it, which is great.
Yeah.
So you've done within Human Sync, there's a lot of people that are looking at, I think one of the big concerns is they say, okay, I'm going to try something for myself to improve my health, but boy, I've got to do all of these lab tests. Can you break down some of those misnomers of people that like, I've got to, do so many, I've got to do a stool sample, a blood sample, a urine sample, all those kinds of things. And, maybe it's difficult to break down every piece, but what do you guys do at Human Sync that makes it easier for the average person that comes in to see you?
Yeah, we like to have a wearable on every extremity, a helmet. No, I'm just kidding.
That's good.
You asked me how we make it simple, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll make it more complicated for him. That's actually really interesting. So back in the beginning, you mentioned I've been a part of 3 clinics. So I have worked for 3 clinics. One was full-time for 3 years as a clinical program director, and I consulted 2 other clinics. All great groups, different models, but some takeaways that I noticed that when we built Human Sync, we looked at that very closely. There are some clinics that are offering a very, very expensive initial screening package, anywhere from $15K up to $75K for 1 day of testing. And behind the scenes, I've done this because I've designed these. There's discussions about, okay, X clinic brought in this much funding. we've got this staff we need to pay. We should design a membership tier that costs this much. And I was a little uncomfortable, just being honest, because I'm like, I think we should design the membership tier around health outcomes. We should be trying to get these people healthy. We shouldn't lead out of the gate with, we have to make this much money. We do have to make money. Like you said, capitalists, we have to make money for the business to succeed. But I think that what I saw was, when you're trying to build a very expensive membership model, you have to say, what items do we bring into that? So we could bring in tests, you can bring in treatments, therapies, peptides. So there are some screenings I've seen out there that I think the data is great. If it's like a research study at a university or for a clinical trial, all day long, bring in all the tests in the world and let's just see what's going on. But for the average person, there are some clinics offering like 20 tests for the initial screening. And I don't think it's necessary for every single person. Example, some people may disagree with this, but 25-year-old comes onto a program, or 35-year-old, no history of gut pain at all, no gas, bloating, diarrhea, none of that stuff. Sorry to get graphic, but it happens. I don't know if we need to do a gut health test on that person. I don't know if we need to do a brain MRI on a 35-year-old with no signs and symptoms. There are other tests that would be better. So getting to the drawing board on saying, okay, if there's 100 tests, we can do any test in the world at Human Sync. We really have access to any test delivered in almost all 50 states now. Imaging, every test you can think of, urine, microbiome, blood, saliva, everything. We don't need to do all that testing, though. We need to understand what the person's doing, who they are, what's their lifestyle like, what are their goals, all the stuff I talked about a little bit ago, and then pair the best test for that person. We feel that genetic testing for most people is super, super helpful. So understanding genetics on everybody is very helpful. That being said, there is about 50% of the genetics that are tested that are not so helpful. So it's an interesting space. There's, the education on this is interesting. There's mutations that cause cancer. That's not what we do. We don't look at mutations that are dire genetic information. We talk about they're called single nucleotide polymorphisms that talk about an increased risk for Alzheimer's disease is one. So if somebody has a gene called ApoE44, we know right out of the gate, this person has a 10 to 20 times increased risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. That's a very helpful piece of information to have, because we know we can do something about it. If somebody's got a whole slew of cardiovascular risk genes, we can say, we know this person, Derek, age 55, has got LP(a), he's got increased risk for clots, he's got boom, boom, boom. Okay. Then if you're on a long flight or in a car ride and we know you're genetically increased risk for clots, there's things that we can talk about, like get outside and move a little bit. So there's a lot of ammunition that comes with genes, and we can do genetic risk for certain diets, exercise. Some people are genetically prone to have less deep sleep. That's just nice information to know. We still want them to have deep sleep, but if we know we're working against the grain a little bit, like, okay, this person doesn't metabolize melatonin at all, so let's not use melatonin. Or some people have a fast metabolism for caffeine, meaning that they could probably drink coffee a little bit later in the day, it won't affect them. But if the metabolism's slow, that could be the reason. Even if they drink coffee at 10 in the morning, and if they have slow metabolism, they could still have trouble sleeping at night. And that affects sleep quality. So the genetics are super helpful. Blood work is I would say it's a no-brainer. Everybody's doing blood work now, but that's because it's very helpful. Inflammatory levels, blood sugar levels, hormones, nutrients, vitamins. You can measure something called homocysteine, which is a very, very helpful blood marker that looks at neurological function and cardiovascular health and vascular health. So pairing genetics with blood, and then wearables are very helpful as well. I've got one on my wrist right now. It's called a Whoop strap. There's also the Aura ring. We could do a whole podcast on wearables, but these are getting better and better every day, every year. They're not perfect, but they do allow us to see trends over time. Heart rate variability is a measure of stress. We can see heart rate. We can measure heart rate zones and activity, deep sleep, REM sleep. So that all three of those are included in almost everybody's plan. And then we pull based on the individual. So if it's a female, it's 55, we'll do a Dutch hormone test. Or if she's 45, we'll do a Dutch hormone test. 55 is a little bit different. If it's a male that's got the Alzheimer's gene and has got a family history of it, then we would pull in a brain MRI and measure. We'd get to know what's going on upstairs in between the ears. We want to know the size of the memory center in the brain called the hippocampus. We could do a cognitive assessment. It's a 40-minute computer test that measures processing speed, memory, recall. If somebody lives in if somebody lives in an environment that has, like an old house. I live in an old house. We found black mold in our ceiling a year ago. So we would say, let's do some mold testing on the body to see if there's mold still in the body. And yeah, that's it. So it's a curated baseline testing package. And then based on the information we discover in the kind of discovery, setting the foundations phase, we'll add more testing based on that.
Okay.
But we try not to overwhelm with testing. That can happen.
Yeah, very easily. Unfortunately, people take advantage of that too.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys have the best interest, especially because of the history that you've had with that. So what's the ultimate impact you want Human Sync to have on, how we live?
I personally, I think an initial reaction could be to say change the way medicine is practiced in the United States and throughout the world. It's not going to be one group that does that. It's going to be a collection of groups or a collection of businesses. But I love developing and I think being able to build this and offer a place for providers to come work and do their dream work. Like we've had a couple physicians that were in Western medicine, joined a couple of these newer medicine practices, but very quickly found out they had Zoom fatigue at the end of the day because they were on 12 calls a day or 16 calls a day. So we want to give our providers and our team time to think about their patients and actually elicit change and help our patients. And then ultimately, I think about the kids and the younger generation out there, make sure there's some options for people when they get older, because there's obese kids and there's kids with disease walking around everywhere. And it's just not, the future is not bright if we continue down the same path. So I have no idea. It changes by the week, to be honest with you. This market's going crazy. So we're just being flexible. And we are going all in on making sure the people that come into our ecosystem, whether it's partners, providers, patients, everybody just has a really good time. And we're doing things safely, guiding people through, and just, trying our best every day.
Yeah, that's all you can do, especially in such an ever-changing market.
Yeah.
And we hope ever-changing / ever improving, which is the important part of it in that business perspective.
Yeah.
So where do you see Human Sync in the next 3-5 years?
I see us having quite the network of maybe a couple facilities somewhere. If, I've got some thoughts on if we were to have an actual brick and mortar facility, what would be in that facility? There's a lot of things. That's a whole separate conversation. Maybe a couple hubs. I would see us integrated with potential sports performance facilities for athletes, professional, collegiate level. I would see us working with extremely large business groups to help kind of the business community. But then I would also love an arm getting out to anybody that wants it as well. And that's kind of what we are right now. We're touching around a lot of different categories. We're attracting a lot of business people, a lot of athletes, former military. But I want everybody to have access to this. Getting it to hundreds of thousands of people is extremely challenging. So we're not even trying that right now. We are trying to make sure that the first 100 patients that come into Human Sync massively change their health and go tell other people. And then we build this company and partner with people like Matt Kaberlein and partner with other big reputable institutions that are doing things the right way, that are not only financially driven. Health outcomes is the compass.
Okay. There's so much we can talk about. You and I can sit on here for a long time. I don't want to take too much of your day. I just got a couple other questions for you. But if people are interested in what you've said so far, I don't know why they wouldn't be, but if we'll share all of your links, how they can get in touch with you. But at HumanSync, how would you suggest if somebody's interested, how can they get in touch with you and learn more about you and or your company, HumanSync?
I would say my email, Erik, ERIK, at humansync.com. That's
Okay.
one way. You can just go to the HumanSync website and book through there, or
Okay.
shouting out on LinkedIn. I've got a LinkedIn profile that I'm very accessible through that.
Okay. I'll make sure we hit both of those on there. So 2 more questions for you. Health, you're in this industry for a very long time. Even before you got in it, you were healthy, even though you were stopping getting some fast food every once in a while, because that's what we do when we're young. We don't know any better.
Oh, yeah.
But if you could give people nowadays one piece of advice that could improve their health in a positive way, what would that advice be?
Can I bundle it up? Let's see here. One thing.
You can, if you want to add 2 or 3.
One is hard. I'm going to bundle it up into like a little package. So not taking things too seriously, I think, is really, really helpful. I could say go take magnesium or make sure you strength train every day. But I think our mind is extremely important in this whole thing. And so not taking things too seriously, but package that up with eating as much real food as possible. Avoid foods in a bag, avoid processed foods. Yes, if you're traveling and you go to a gas station, whatever. But I'm saying if you're in control, eat as much real food and spend as much time outside as possible. So it's like taking things not too seriously, but enough to stay engaged. Some people could go the other side and just not care about anything. But it's trying to stay engaged, but not take things too seriously, because the space is moving and it's moving fast and nobody's perfect. Yeah. And then eating the real foods and being outside. I think that right there provides a really nice foundation. And the patients I have worked with that do themes of that tend to have a very good outlook on life, but they seem to be just operating at a very good level. Some very successful people that may have great biomarkers that are just hyper focused on perfection. And every morning they wake up and check their Whoop wearable to see, how did my sleep go? There is some danger, I think, in that is being obsessive in the metrics. And so trying to find a plan that works, that guides you along, but doesn't run your life.
Okay.
So it's kind of a long-winded answer.
No, that's good. It was 1, 2, 3. It's great. All great points.
Yeah.
All great points.
That's for one, and I'll give you like 4.
We'll take it. You got great information. You're on the Prime Health podcast. I appreciate it. We always ask this question. It's kind of a final one. What's your definition of Prime Health?
Being able to do the things you want to do after you retire. I think keeping the body in is, I think about, and that's very broad, but because you have to be eating and sleeping, exercising and moving and doing all these things in order to achieve that. But keeping focused on what things do we need to do to enjoy later in life. If you have kids or grandkids, being there for them, and taking the actions every day to move towards that, but still give your chance to be human is probably how I would respond. Yeah.
I like it. Love it. Well, Erik, as I said, we got tons of information. I'll definitely be bringing you back to learn more about HumanSync and your brain health program as well. But I appreciate the insights you give us. You've got a great history of being in healthcare, neuro ICU nurse, put in many probably stressful situations from there. You advance into a couple other companies and now with HumanSync, where it seems like your desire is truly to have humans live better lives for longer periods of time. So I appreciate you sharing that information with us. Of course, I always say you and I would love for this information to be shared, but I think it's most important that if there's 1, 2, 3 things or one thing that you think sticks with one person that I always ask just share it for one person that could benefit, whether it's a mid-50s person, somebody that does have some brain health questions, or somebody that's looking for better overall health and wellness. reaching out to you and your company, I think is a great point for them. So selfishly, of course, we'd love it if people subscribe to our podcast, and I'm sure you guys will have a podcast coming up yourself. So I always wrap it up here, until next time, remember that wellness is a journey we're all on together. Now, whether you're taking, charge of your own health or you're guiding others in theirs, every step forward matters. We ask that you just stay committed to your Prime Health journey. And again, Erik, thank you very much for being a guest on the Prime Health Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Good luck with your podcast.